You're listening to Women's Dream Enlightenment. Dream decoding, deep discussions, and spiritual stories of self-discovery to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, founder of Women's Dream Analysis. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today we have Jamie Vos Love. She is an international medium, mentor, and Galactic channel. A go-to guide for visionary leaders shaping the future, Jamie supports ascension, uniting starseeds and lightworkers, raising consciousness, and supporting gift expansion by helping others to explore and develop their own innate psychic abilities. Jamie is the author of 15 Sacred Ceremonies with Ayahuasca and co-creator of Codes of Ascension. She is a founding member of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance and is currently working on a book about the galactic origins of humanity. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure and an honor to be here.
Yes, and ever since I was on your podcast, I've been wanting to have you on mine, so I'm so glad that the stars aligned for you to join me today.
Wonderful. We had so much fun.
Yes. So my first question is going to be the one that I ask everyone, and that is, what does enlightenment mean to you?
Ooh, felt that in my heart. Yeah. So enlightenment means to me that all is well, and so it is, and sort of being at peace in the present, which I found requires deep trust, a deep inner trust, and liberation of joy. So, kind of going through the evolution, of course, it's still in process of allowing ourselves to fully experience joy when we may have blocked that off from the past and without it being an attachment to a particular outcome.
I like that last part, that last disclaimer. I think that part is the most important part, at
It
least for
is.
me, is attaching it to a particular outcome. So you're thinking, I'll be happy when, and I'll be
Right.
joyful when, and it'll be so nice when this particular outcome that you're projecting, that you're hoping happens, and not being joyful in the moment.
Right. And then we're always chasing rather than
Yes.
attracting, putting it out in a future time.
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. So, your work is so interesting and so expansive, but I'd love to start at the beginning of how you came to do the work that you do.
Sure. It's a big question. My journey, is not unlike many others, a journey of remembrance. So, remembering, forgetting, and trying to get to that I know who I am place of enlightenment. And I would say that I had sensitivities to energies growing up. I could read energy, didn't really fully comprehend, but kind of had a knowing why I was here and what I needed to do. But then had some trauma that happened pretty early on. And so, if we kind of fast forward in life to the awakening moment, which happened for me in 2009, it actually started off with this dream that was very significant and profound. And in this dream, I was walking through this space where everyone was sitting at tables on both sides and they had chains around their wrist, right? And it just felt very kind of heavy and dense in nature. And but the chains were around the wrist. And the beautiful thing is that if they wanted to, if they chose, everybody could get up and walk through this door. And I was just kind of looking and observing this space. And I was like, I have to get to this door. And this door was just full of light and just beautiful kind of vibration and peace. And I walked through that doorway and this beautiful vibration occurred. And I saw this tree that would also become significant as a sign and marker on my journey. And then I woke up and I felt the presence of my great grandmother. And I just knew that there was work to do to get to that point. And later I would kind of connect that with my great grandmother. There was a significance of the generational clearing that we do on this journey to alchemize any kind of pain or DNA into a place of power. So that was the dream that sort of was like, here is what is about to unfold. And then I had this moment in 2009 in the summer. It was actually on the solstice at 11:11, and I felt this wave of, when you asked what enlightenment means to me, that's what I felt and experienced. Felt unconditional love, peace, forgiveness of myself for anything that I had judged, and forgiveness of others for anything that I had judged. I knew that we were all connected to each other, we were a part of nature. And that feeling was just very beautiful. And it stayed with me for a little while. And also clarity around our power to create our realities. And then from there came the real work, okay? Because this was just a little glimpse from the universe. This is what we can achieve on this ascension process. This is what we get to experience in the human. But here's what's kind of standing in your way. And that's where the dark night of the soul came forward, the very deeper truth of looking at myself in the mirror and going inside and really getting to the core of that work. And so that led me to do what I do now through that transformative process, because I realized that many people were having challenges and we had been disconnected from our intuition and that deeper trust. And how can I be in service and help support people through the process? So that was kind of the initial workings of why I chose to do what I do.
I love that it came to you in a dream or that it started with a dream. That's, of course, what for me is so powerful in my experience as well. And I also like that you talked about the generational clearing. And that is something that I'm really getting to delve further into right now in my own personal process. And I think that's part of what we have to do to become that pure channel, to become that pure vehicle of the information that needs to be delivered. And so I'm glad that you talked about that as well in that first dream, and that your grandmother sort of led you down that path. And also just the different ways that people get that call. And it's not always clear where it's going to lead you. I like the glimpse as well of here's how amazing it can be. And that's almost like the boom awakening moment. And then it's just kind of like bam, back down to, but you're tethered here, and all these things you brought with you, and all these things that are blocking you and keeping you from raising up to that again, right? And that then the work begins.
Yes, absolutely. Are you familiar with like a black box in a plane that records all of the information, all
Mm-hmm.
of the data?
Mm-hmm.
So I found that, that's just what I call it. It's been shown to me through different ceremonies that I've engaged in, that we have our own little black box that records, right? All of the information, all of the experiences. And there is gold in there if we can transform and alchemize that pain to power. And one of the things that I love about your podcast is that it inspires people who may be going through challenging times and working on their process, their awakening, their ascension, their path to enlightenment. And, there were times that I didn't want to be here because of some of these, lingering traumas or just the feelings that I was moving through. And so that could be individual and collective too. But throughout this process and facing fear and looking in that box to alchemize it, that has been tremendously helpful on this path and journey for sure.
I love that illusion of the black box. And yes, it seems to be an underutilized underlying thread of everyone's story. They don't arrive at this by, well, my life was pretty idyllic, and yeah, nothing really happened to note.
Right.
I mean, everyone has hardships, but it seems like there's this personal depth to for the people that are really in the most light later, it seems like. I don't know if that explains it well, but there's something that really requires you to embrace that darkness in order to also embody the light, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's a mental game, it's a physical, emotional, spiritual process. All of the things are all components, and we're in it together too, and that's an important message that we have so much support. And I love to connect with people and to help them not only trust their intuition and higher selves, but the guides that we have from the other side or the angelic realm or even the galactic space that are all willing to provide that love and guidance and support along the journey.
Yes, it's really important to know that that's there for you wherever it's coming from, because otherwise you can easily lose hope. You can easily become isolated and convince yourself of your unnecessity, right? And it's important and uplifting and reaffirming when you recognize that there's a greater plan at play and that you do have a purpose and that you are important and that you have to embrace what your specific thing is. And that's kind of the whole purpose of this school called Earth, right? So I want to talk about your connection with the galactic intelligence and how that started for you. Explain it to the people who are not familiar with this, who are really not sure what that means.
Sure, absolutely. If I go back just a little bit on my journey, so I feel like in retrospect and like memories that have resurfaced since my awakening process, it's very clear and evident that I did have this connection younger, but I had absolutely forgotten it along the path. And even when I first had my awakening, I wasn't familiar with galactics at all. And in fact, I had a fear that I realized I had to work through. And that was largely the result of a certain media, certain films, movies, even though there are some positive, benevolent connections out there. I had, for some reason, some fear ingrained. And so I had to go through some sort of process, I believe, to release that before this information could come in. But it was about 9 years later after my initial awakening. I would call it a reawakening or a starseed awakening, that sort of thing. And in that experience, I had already been connecting with the other side and angels for a while. And I had this experience with this being named Patu, who I would later realize was one of my Andromedan female guides. And I was very, this being appeared and I felt very calm, very loved. And the being Patu would just show me visually different sort of messages. So it wasn't through words, it was telepathic but visual in nature. Okay. So there's information that was coming through. The intention of Patu and that experience was just to get me used to that energy signature, that vibration to help activate memories of this connection. And then that opened up the field to other galactic connections and experiences. So from there, it's just been like a windfall. It's just, I'm used to it now. Different beings will come in. And so if I share this from a perspective of, okay, what I don't understand any of this, I'm new to this, explain in that way. What it is, us as humans are working through our evolution in consciousness. We're working through our ascension process. And we are not alone in the universe, right? So some of us have had lifetimes outside of Earth, and we come in with that soul genome and galactic makeup and later realize those connections. But there are many benevolent beings in star systems that also want to see us shine and us evolve and ascend to this place of, love and enlightenment, and then reconnect our place in the cosmos, become intergalactic, travel amongst the stars, but doing it in a way that we're not going to be violent toward each other, where we still have that now in the collective. And so we're going through this process of clearing all of that so we can ascend to a certain frequency and then reunite and connect and grow and evolve that way.
That's a really good explanation. And I think most people have the movie impression of intergalactic beings, and for the most part, they're portrayed negatively. And so we're taught from a very young age to fear other planetary life, or deny that it exists at all. So either it doesn't exist or it does and it's an enemy and we have to be afraid of it and we have to protect ourselves and we have to try to prevent that from happening, that would be really bad if we ever made contact and all that sort of thing. And so I think that's what most people need to work through in order to accept even the concepts. And then there's the parallel concept of our own existence and our own possibility of having previous lives, of possibly having lived on other planets. That is a stretch for a lot of people. But for some, it's like you said, a remembering, and it's an opening up to the acceptance that what we are comfortable with isn't necessarily all there is, and that we have to understand that there's a much, much bigger cosmos, much bigger awareness that we are a part of, and that for that reason, we can connect in with these other intelligences. And for the most part, that they do want our best interests in mind. Now, do you feel that there are non-benevolent galactic beings that don't have our best interests in mind?
Sure. I mean, dualistically, we can perceive it as such. What I was sort of shown by the Galactics is that there's nothing to fear in this process, and that even though there may be energies or entities that may not have the best interest, by having fear or by creating this sort of war between light and dark, that just perpetuates that duality and that polarity. And so to be able to transcend that, you have to really do the inner work, expand the consciousness to connect and, yeah, just being shown. I'm getting a little message here from them. They're like, we are light, we are here, we are love, we are you, we are Palladians. But yes, so I was shown that there is an existence, but not to focus on the light and the dark.
Hmm. And mostly because fear is a low vibration in itself. So if you're reinforcing that low vibration, you can't have fear and love together at the same time. You can't hold them both energetically. And fear is a low vibration and love is the highest vibration. And so if you want to ascend and you want to connect and you to feel protected and feel supported, you can't hold the fear at the same time.
Sure. That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I was revisiting that dream that I was going to mention, another dream, which is so I had a dream with a guide on a train, and I later realized this was a galactic guide. And I believe just through the experience and the work that I do that we may be having some of these dreams and visits from these guides, but we don't make the connection that there's a galactic origin until later when we familiarize ourselves with our experiences, our memories, and the energy signatures. But within a dream, this guide drew on this paper this little triangle, and it was like this little star system that I would later connect to the Andromedan galaxy. But with this little triangle, what he shared for the message to humanity is that we can focus on the dark, we can focus on the storm, but then we're missing all of the love and true hearts all around it that surrounds us every day. And that is going to be one of the keys to this process and this journey.
Hey everyone, I'm thrilled to announce that my debut novel, The Dream Haunters, A Metaphysical Mystery of Magic, is now published. It is the first book in the Witches of Maple Hollow series. The Book Life Prize calls it a highly inventive work, packed to the brim with surprise portals, ancient traditions, and dream worlds. Get your exclusive signed copy today at meganmary.com. Stop by the store while you're there and grab your dream journals, cozy blankets, pillows, candles, and more. And don't forget, it's also available in audiobook. Forward your proof of purchase from any online retailer to me, and I will send you a code to use next time you shop. I can't wait to read your reviews. That's fascinating. I want to talk about the energy signatures. How do you quantify or classify or recognize the signatures? Would you say it's akin to a vibe, as in being around someone else that's on the physical plane, similar to that?
Yeah, it could. Yep, it could be. Absolutely. So if you think about somebody that you can feel, right? Feel their energy and you can recognize them. If you were to close your eyes and somebody came and sat next to you, could you feel their vibration and their energy and recognize, oh, this is Joe or Mark or whoever? It's the same sort of concept with channeling. And once you have the experience, usually it's one initial time is enough to activate that memory. But for some, it may take a couple of them. There are many variables in that, the degree of fear that we're moving through, the degree of trust, openness to bring those energies close to the heart space. And so with these energy signatures, once they come in and you make that conscious connection, then moving forward, it's easier to discern almost immediately. It comes, you know who it is. You know it's the Arcturians or the Pleiadians, the angelics, or a loved one from the other side.
And do you find that in terms of the telepathic communication, that it is mostly, how do I say, not in the English language, that it's symbolic, it's images, it's photo, it's like a photo show, or it's like symbols, or it's light, or sound. It's communicated in extrasensory ways, as well as visual, innerly visual. And then you are almost like the translator
Yes.
that then kind of when you're stopping and you're receiving a message, it might be almost like a slideshow. And then you're translating it for the listener. Here's what I am intuiting this message is,
Yes, that's
in other
that is
words.
fair and correct. So we're working with a series of our clairs, and
Hmm.
so we're looking at clairvoyance, what we can see visually, clairaudience, what we can sort of hear, even though it's more that's telepathic hearing, right?
Yeah,
And then
sure.
claircognizance, the knowing, and the clairsentience, the feeling. All of those
Hmm.
things are being activated, and they can come through different ways, different times. So when you tune into those and you can practice and develop these skills, and that's what I love, working with people to do. But over time, it just comes through and you can instantly translate that information. And it is through our own consciousness, right? It's going to be our own vernacular, that sort of thing, because we are translating those symbols, the visions, and then sometimes it will be a download of just clear and concise messages. So we have to kind of step outside of control of the way that we want to receive that and just be open to that coming in any of those ways.
And when we talk about dream work, I always say that the way to understand what your dreams mean is not to look outside of yourself, not to look in a dream dictionary, to basically make your own dictionary, to comprise your own lexicon and language from understanding and beginning to connect with the associations in from your consciousness that are showing up in the stories of your dream. And to me, the telepathic nature of the communication with whether it's spirit guides or galactic beings or other entities is that the communication might be the same. It might be similar to the modality that dreams communicate to us in.
Absolutely. And it's a great tool to receive and download activations as we sleep, dream codes, symbols, but oftentimes we'll even get Akashic memories in there that will help us remember that part of our journey. And then in the waking world, say you do a meditation or you want to connect with one of those particular star systems or different realms, then that memory and that activation can help initiate that connection and bring it through and help us make sense too of
Yes,
what that information is. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So beyond analyzing the dream for its relevance to your 3D life, it's also analyzing the dream to remember and understand your multidimensional life or
Yeah.
existence. And recently I had a dream that I was looking at, I guess it's like a slice of earth. It's like one of those, I don't know if a terrarium is the proper term, but where you can see the ants crawling through their little tunnels. And do you know what I'm talking about? It's almost like
Uh-huh.
one of those little clear boxes, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And it was earth size. And I was looking at that from underground, and I was being shown how there was a connection being made from the earth to below the earth. And there was something at the top, and then they were building these tubes, these circular tubes. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's like PVC tubes. And they were saying, don't cut them too short because they have to connect and they have to, one on top of the other, build up to reach the top. Well, the next morning, my husband brings me this information about the Egyptian pyramid discovery. And I was just floored. I was like, okay, I saw this last night. So that's the kind of thing that I feel is so powerful about dreams that wasn't just a movie that I was watching. That was a remembering. That was
Absolutely.
one of those downloads where it was like, I knew about this. I knew that that was there. I knew that how they put it together and everything. And then it was just brought into this 3D reality as information. But it was so awestruck for me to I just can't believe that.
Oh, it's amazing. There's a level of it's memory and prophecy in a way, right? Because as soon as you had the memory, then it shows up after that, which is beautiful. And there's so much packed in the Egyptian that's connected to our ancient histories, our true histories that's being unearthed, and just all of the ancient medicine that's connected to that as well.
Yes, and they were very tuned in to the power of dreams. They were very much sleeping inside these temples for that purpose of them receiving downloads from previous and other places. And they understood that the dreams were the way to access that information. And so fascinating. I can't wait to see what else. I will discover what else is going to be uncovered. And yeah, there's just so much I feel that we are going to learn
I
in
definitely
the
think that they
future.
have a lot to do with anchoring in those higher frequencies, kind of clearing earth goo is how it's been shown to me,
I
which
like
is
that.
the lower. Yeah. As we are receiving information on our journey, sometimes it's like can be at a time where you're still trying to just make sense of it. And then later, those pieces manifest into your reality in some way, shape, or form to give you more information. So I didn't know about what the term ascension meant back then. But how they showed me was I went in, I was working with the pyramidal structure, and I was like, had like dense energy and kind of like this gooey, this gooiness on me. And I went through to this light again and felt like very like light and fun and joyful and playful. And I know that there's like what you were tuning into and what's potentially been discovered and what we're going to see more of. I have no doubt. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on underneath the pyramids and the Sphinx, but with these structures that are there, there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more that will come, I feel like, to you in the dream space too around this.
Absolutely. Yes. And I just want to open the floor in the event that there is anything that would like to come through and be communicated as we close our meeting today, which has just been so, so wonderful to catch up with you. So, yes, is there anything you'd like to share?
Sure. I will just tune in for a moment just to kind of share. Well, I will say an immediate message that comes through quite often. It's been, very profound message on the journey, which is thoughts of love flow through a free heart, which is just to symbolize the process through and this journey being really about our heart center and heart frequency to lead the way. And so thinking with the heart is a big part of that journey. Let me just see if they want me to share something from the guides. All right, I'm getting a message for you. Is that
Yeah.
okay to share?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are happy that you are here. We hold you very near and dear to our heart. And this is coming through Arcturians that you have a close connection to, it feels like. Seeing different colors that have been sort of shifting, transforming, alchemizing. They're showing me blues and yellows. And they're saying a move is coming for you, which can sometimes be symbolic, but this feels physical in nature. So I don't know if that's something you're aware of, but that's coming through. And then for the collective and being shown just to keep trusting yourselves, keep kind of marching. They're showing me marching to the beat of your own drum because there's a lot of information out there. So discernment and trusting what is true for you, even if that's not the same for other people, is going to be more and more important in the heart journey. Anything else? And then they're just showing me laughter because it's like it's very easy on this journey with all of the things that we're unearthing to take it seriously and to feel, the pangs of that. And so just to remember to play, and that can move things quite rapidly in terms of what you're trying to manifest and bring into your reality.
Yes, that is so true and such good advice. And thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad to hear about all of that. And yes, I definitely have a connection with the Arcturians, amongst others. So I was glad to hear from them as well. Well, thank you so much
Wonderful.
for being here today, Jamie. I think that what you're doing out in the world is so important, and I'm going to definitely continue to listen to what you're sharing and follow you on your journey as I go on mine. So, where can people find you if they want to work with you and find out more about what you do?
Sure. My website is jamievoslove.com. It's also my Instagram and YouTube channel. So those are 3 ways to find me.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your journey and your gifts. And I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Megan. It's been amazing. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? You can now send me a text message and share your experience. Be sure to subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button as well to be part of my growing community. Are you ready to take the next step in your spiritual journey? Don't miss out on the new Dream Empowerment programs. Unique opportunities for you to unlock your inner wisdom, discover your authenticity, align with your higher self, and bring abundance into your life. If you'd like your dream or awakening story featured on my show, submit it today. Your dreams have the power to inspire and enlighten other women on their journey. Visit meganmary.com to find out more.